Hello and welcome to another episode on Journey to Authenticity, a podcast helping you to become fully authentic on your journey to success. My name is Braden Belknap, and I'm a human just like you, striving to build a dream life, all while I stay true to myself. But what if you have a storm in your life that's going on right now? Whether that's with yourself, maybe it's your relationship with God, or your marriage, or with your children, or maybe there's something that you just seem to can't break through. It's exactly why I have Alic Giles coming on to today, as he's done it all. He's a cop. He's a man that's married to his high school sweetheart. He's a father. He's struggled with fertility and seen things that you and I both probably never want to see in our lives due to his career path. And he owns a company called Storm Warrior Tactical, which has taken all of his principles that he's lived in life and applied them so that he can benefit me and you. With that in mind, welcome to the show, Alic.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, for sure. I'm super excited for it.
You gifted me some of this Storm Warrior Tactical merch a couple of weeks ago, and I fell in love with it, man.
Dude,
I'm
so
a forever customer.
Dude, that makes me so excited.
Absolutely. So, jumping in, what inspired you to start Storm Warrior Tactical?
I really wanted to do with it was kind of inspire other people and show them, like, our mission is built off trying to show people everybody has it in them. You can become a warrior yourself. You can overcome your obstacles. You can rise and become more than you were just by facing those challenges. That's why our motto is conquer the storm. You face that storm, you're going to get through it, and you're going to rise and be better than you were before. So I was trying to also inspire and show people that anybody can do that.
Absolutely. The thought process, and obviously has nothing to do with Storm Warrior Tactical, was the buffalo analogy. I'm sure you know this, but buffalo run toward that storm. Like, let's go conquer this baby. And cows and other animals run away.
Yep, I love that one because they do. They'll turn and run, and what happens is they end up in the storm longer. Buffaloes are going to face it, and they're going to get through it quicker, but they come out just stronger on the other end. I love that one.
Absolutely. That's why, just to share, my first step to really living a transformative life is awareness. When we become aware of something, we have the choice to run from, it'll always catch up to us. And like you said, you'll be in that storm longer. Or you can say, you know what, this is my problem with me or my relationship or my business, and I'm going to go conquer this baby, and we're going to become stronger on the way out.
Absolutely. Did you have something specific that, like, you had to really face and lean into to get through yourself?
The biggest thing for me was drugs as a kid. I started drugs at around 12, 13 years old. And I got involved with the wrong group. And I say I got involved with the wrong group, but the truth is I was the wrong group because I started in 7th grade. So I was the one creating that group. And the only person that I can blame is myself, right? I mean, sure, I could say, well, this situation made me do this, or that made me do this, or this person made me do that. Well, those are all just excuses. At the end of the day, you got to own your problems.
Yeah, and being able to recognize that so early on, because you're still really young. And a lot of people, they don't figure that out until they're really late in life, late 30s, 40s, sometimes 50s. Being able to have the courage to face that like you did, own up to it and get through it, that's amazing, man.
Absolutely. It's a process. It's a daily process. Seems like there's always something to apologize for, whether that's to myself or my wife or somebody else. But the point is, you just got to keep doing it, and it gets easier and easier to face those storms as well.
Absolutely. Having the self-awareness to recognize, too, when you're making a mistake or you have to make a course correction, being self-aware enough to realize, oh, I'm off track, and correcting to get back onto the right path you need to be on, that's huge. I don't feel like there's a lot of people that are able to do that, but when you see someone that does, it's amazing to see it.
Absolutely. So coming back to you, were you growing up in a household that's taught, hey, face your storms, go conquer them? Like, how were you growing up, and how did you learn these principles?
Oh, man. So I had an amazing home to grow up in. Both a father and mother, all siblings who loved me. We grew up just a family just full of love. It worked out great. But we were also a family that wasn't afraid of hard work. Like, my dad, he was always working constantly. And then he himself became a cop. And just that work ethic took him very far in his career. He's done an amazing job, and I'm super proud of him. It's what led me kind of down that career path myself.
This is becoming a cop. So is your dad still in the workforce?
He is. Yep, he's still out there doing it and looking to retire about the end of this year after 30 years of doing it. So he's a stud. He's put in some serious time and done some amazing things.
That's 30 years of service to a community, which I'm all for the blue, honestly. Like, let's be real. Some people out there aren't. You guys are the first ones I'm calling if I need. I'll do my best, but I'll probably be hiding underneath my bed. Just kidding. My wife deserves a better man that just would hide underneath the bed. So I've actively became that.
Right on, man.
Anyways, so you learned a lot of principles from your dad is what I'm hearing from you. And in your mom, I'm sure, in different ways.
Absolutely. My mom's been amazing too. She's not just, working in the home to raise the three of us, but she's also worked the part-time jobs and put in just countless hours. Moms always go and do the thankless job. And I was such a troublemaker, kind of, not per se, like I never got into drugs and alcohol and things like that, but I always had an attitude, and I'm sure I was a challenge for my parents.
Have you overcome that now yet, or?
Trying to.
That's fair. You are. Attitude's always a thing to overcome, right? Mm-hmm. Because we can't always be happy. We can't always be sad. We can't always be overwhelmed. We always can't be motivated. Emotions just come and go, so...
Yep, that one, I love to hit on that as well. And it's one of the things, that's why I put it in my bio. Years ago, I'd kind of come up with my own quote that I took little bits and pieces from others on. And it's that, motivation lets you down, but discipline picks you up. So you can't rely on motivation.
Absolutely. Motivation. The truth is, I say motivation as an emotion because it is an emotion. Mm-hmm. You wake up this morning and you feel great and you want to go work out. You want to go kiss your wife, let her know that you're so grateful for him, and you want to go to work and the day's the best. But then the next day you're like, I want to go back to sleep for the next 5 hours and not wake up.
Absolutely. I'm sure you've had days where you don't want to keep grinding out on the podcast and all of the hard work that you've put in, but you still do it, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that one does most of the work. My wife, let's be honest.
The unsung heroes, right?
I'm like, I do the e-judge job. I get to sit here and have awesome conversations, and obviously she gets to meet awesome people like yourself, but she's the one editing. So I know she has more tears to shed than me.
I love that you guys just are working together on it and grinding it out and have turned it into such an amazing thing. Like, you guys have shown an incredible amount of discipline with it. So it's to be commended. I think that's awesome.
Well, it's the concept that I live by is this. If I was to live forever, how would I want my life to look? And if I was to live forever, I would never throw in the towel, because it would be like, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to get there, or I'm going to be living forever in this misery or somewhere I don't want to be. Mm-hmm. And that concept, I believe that we're going to live forever. Might not be here physically on earth. Who knows what the other side looks like? I mean, nobody really knows unless you're dead, which then you wouldn't be listening to this. I believe we do live forever. And my personal opinion is that if God gifts me something, which is ultimately a talent, he has the ability to also take it away. But also with that, if for anybody out there that's not religious, this is my opinion. If you just lean into those gifts and really work your life around those gifts, you're thanking God. It's like you're a parent, you give your boy or your girl a present and they open up and they're like, oh my goodness, thank you so much. That's the relationship with God. So when you lean into that and you say, you know what, I'm going to do this forever, whether I feel like it or not, and I'm going to trust you, God, to lead me, that's the same emotion. And that's the way I see it.
And I love that concept. That's a beautiful way to look at going through life. Like, that's such an awesome perspective.
Yeah, it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, you might be gifted at 5 things. Then you try one and you don't like it. That's okay. As parents, we can't expect our kids to like every gift that we give them. But at least one, mm-hmm. Right?
Absolutely. And I think we both share that belief too. I also, myself, I believe, we are going to live forever. this is just a small portion of our life. Sometimes it feels very long, but this portion, this chapter is going to close, another chapter is going to start, and we're going to have a life beyond this. That's something that I personally believe. And if we're doing everything like you're saying, we want to live like we're going to live forever. So if you go and you try to make those gifts stronger and better, and you make yourself better every day, you improve upon those gifts that you were given, I believe we're going to take a lot of that with us into the next life. So it's to your benefit to become someone that you yourself love, someone that can help others, that other people want to be around. It's to your benefit to be able to do that.
Exactly. Because the concept YOLO, you only live once, in my opinion, is one of the main driving forces, not only for young teens, but for everybody, to cause destructive behavior. The concept of YOLO allows for somebody to have an excuse to say, it's okay to mess up this one night and go sleep with this girl or go do drugs. This one night, it's okay. I only live once. Mm-hmm. Or it's okay not to pursue my passion because I'm going to be dead in 20 years anyways. Like the concept of one life really allows for people to make excuses. But when they say, man, this is a forever journey and my journey doesn't stop at the end, it makes you think much bigger picture. It gets you excited about life and it drives purpose and passion and fulfillment for you to make you want to go be better.
Yes, I like that. I think there's two sides to that too. You have the people that are using it as an excuse and people who are looking at it as it's a finite amount of time that we have here before that next life. So let's make the most of it. Exactly. Understanding that the time here is short. So if you look at it in that perspective, do the most you can with it while you've got it. And then you're going to be even better off in the next life.
Life feels really long, but the truth is we weren't here for a long time and we're going to be dead for a long time too.
Well, and I'll tell you too, I'm sure you've had other guests tell you as well, being that they might have a couple of years on you, it goes even faster the older you get.
I feel so old right now. Sometimes it's easy even for me, like my struggle and what I've been actively working on this year. We have a family word. We just started this trend, and every year we created a family word for the year. And our year this year was intentional. Because for the first half of my years, I was like, I want to prove my worth to the world. I want to show the world that I'm deserving of love and that I deserve a perfect life. It caused for just grind that didn't really get me anywhere. And now it's like, hey, you know what? Life's long. Just because so-and-so's behind you doesn't mean you're ahead. And just because so-and-so's ahead of you also doesn't mean you're behind. But my standard is 3 standards. 1, keep your word to yourself and others. So essentially keep your promises. 2, do more than what you promise. And 3, do your best. And as long as I do that throughout my life, then I know that I'm okay.
Absolutely. I love that. Those are great principles to live by. And understanding that while you're doing that too, you also build better self-esteem. You get a better sense of self-worth when you do that. And I think that's really important. There's a lot of times when you're going through kind of like that entrepreneurial journey and it's just you grinding it out. And there's a lot of people that you would think might be cheering for you, but they're really not. And I think it's Hermosi who says that it's just a long, slow clap. Just you. You're the only one there in that auditorium just clapping for yourself for a very long time. You don't get the cheerleaders until you're successful. So building that self-worth is so important.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of these entrepreneurs, what young individuals, because right now we're talking obviously to a lot of 20-year-olds that are entrepreneurs out there. And what a lot of people don't understand is the entrepreneurs that we're seeing now are like in their 50s.
Yep, that's very true.
That's who we're comparing to.
Yeah, all of your speakers and your idols and people that they're looking up to in that field, you're right. They are a lot older. They already put in the grind in their 20s and 30s, and now they're reaping the benefits of it.
Exactly. And a lot of these entrepreneurs actually didn't start succeeding, like quote unquote succeeding, meaning they just barely started to see a sliver of their success in their earlies to mid 30s.
Yeah. And I'll guarantee almost every single one of them have some probably fairly big failures in their resume before they found that success. That's part of the journey.
Absolutely. And some of these guys, man, I wish I had Gandalf. I want to say it's a big bearded guy in Harry Potter. What's his name?
Oh, the Hagrid? Or are you
No.
talking Dumbledore? Or are you talking...
I think it's Dumbledore. Oh, no. It's Harry Potter. Anyways, we're just going to get to the point. It's one of the guys with the beards. He didn't get that role for a long time, but he was acting for like 20, 30, 40 years.
Mm.
But he won when he was older, which means for lifetime legacy for generations to come.
Yep, that's very true. You never know when that success is going to hit. Sometimes it's late in life. Everyone uses the example of KFC. Well, how old was Colonel Sanders? Wasn't he in his late 60s, 67 about? Before he did that. Sometimes your success is going to come later in life.
And that's okay.
Yep.
Because nowadays, hopefully, my goal is to live to 120, baby. So I got a long ways to go. People think I'm crazy for saying that, but I genuinely feel it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like 120, I don't want to live long, by the way, if I'm, brain dead or something like that. But with how I treat my body, I don't see why that'll be a problem.
There you go. At least you want to hit triple digits.
Absolutely. So getting back to your story, what age were you when you became a cop?
I was 25.
25. So was it a hardship that inspired that, or what inspired you to become a cop? Because Storm Warrior Tactical, amazing reasons why you started that.
Becoming a cop was partly, so I've worked pretty much my entire life since I was, I don't know, probably 11, able to push a lawnmower and break in some cash doing that. Always did that. And I had a pretty good job and an amazing boss. And we were doing things like building custom surveillance equipment, mobile command centers that the police agencies use. And we always had a really close relationship with law enforcement. Like I said, I have family who's also law enforcement, and thought originally that's what I was going to do. So when I started out doing the custom builds of the equipment and the command centers, I thought that we were going to really lean into that, build it bigger, build it really successful, because I got in kind of early with them when they were doing that. But struggles of the business, it didn't flourish as much as I thought it was. Sometimes, hours would cut back a little bit, and I didn't want to leave the job, but I needed something a little bit more stable. And my wife and I sat down, we prayed about it, because there actually happened to become an opening for the department. And at that time, they weren't open that often. So we prayed about it, and is this kind of like a sign, just the timing wise? Are we supposed to do this? And then I felt kind of obligated in a way, you know what, I'm willing, able, and capable to go out there and make a difference, to help people. I've got it in me to be the protector. So I think I should probably go do that and help people if I can. So that's kind of what pushed me into it.
Powerful. Sometimes a good girl in God will put us on the right track. Us men, right?
Yep. I think we found out later on, we kind of got our answer why I was supposed to go into law enforcement. And it was because of a family reason. So we found that out later.
Tell us more.
So it had to do with my wife and I had some amazing struggles to get pregnant.
Okay.
And I tell you, I don't say it lightly when I say my wife and I have just the best marriage in the world. I adore her and always have. We're high school sweethearts. So we've been together for a very long time. And the only thing we ever wanted was, to be together all the time, raise a family, and just that was the life we wanted for each other. And when it was time to have children, we're like, okay, I think we're finally ready. And we start trying to have children. Well, okay, it's not happening right away. That's okay. That's normal. And we kept trying and trying. And then we eventually had to talk to doctors and say, all right, what's going on? Well, try this and this medication. Tried that. That wasn't working. So then we had to go to specialists and keep trying and keep fighting. More medications, more tests. And in the end, it wound up being almost 4 years of just getting excited, is it going to happen this month? And then just being emotionally crushed. It's such a difficult, devastating cycle to go through. And I feel so much having gone through it myself. I feel for anybody who has to go through this process of dealing with infertility issues. And we dealt with them, like I said, for almost 4 years. And my wife was just amazing going through it. I can't believe how strong she was getting through all of these tests and procedures. She had to have surgeries and all these things to enable her to even have a chance to get pregnant. And in the end, we had to resort to IVF. And it took a couple of rounds for that to actually be successful before we were finally pregnant. And the only way we were able to continue, the very last time we said, okay, this is it. This is the last time we're going to try. We are emotionally spent. We can't be crushed one more time. We can't take it anymore. We are only going to try one more time. And we are only able to do that because the insurance that came with my job had, for the first time ever, a one-time, here's some thousands of dollars that go towards infertility issues if you're having them. And we just looked at that as, that's an absolute godsend, because we were depleted on money, because it is not cheap to go through infertility issues. Anyone will tell you that's extremely expensive to deal with. So we were tapped out financially, emotionally, physically, like we were done. And then along came these funds from the insurance company of all places. And like, okay, let's try one more time. We did, and that was our blessing. So after fighting through it all those years, we finally got our daughter.
Amazing. And I got to ask, what was it like figuring out your wife is pregnant?
It was disbelief for the longest time. You think you have 12 months in a year, right?
Yeah.
And with different procedures and stuff, it's not like you could necessarily try every month. But for the better part of 12 months, 12 times every single year, getting excited, then disappointed, and then doing it again and again and again for 4 years. That's a lot of months of being absolutely just crushed and disappointed. For it to finally come up positive, we were just in disbelief for the longest time. No way.
Are you sure?
Yeah. How many tests did you take?
Do you need to retest? Okay. So what was the emotions like, the thoughts from the beginning to the middle to the end? How did you handle that? How did your wife handle that? How did you guys handle that together?
We absolutely had to lean on each other. It just worked out so well. When she was down and in a dark place, I happened to be up so I could help her. And then vice versa. When I was down, she'd help me up out of the dark place. We only made it through because of each other, helping the other when we were in the dark place, because we would go there frequently.
So a lot of couples nowadays, unfortunately, and I'm sure as you know, I'm so grateful that I'm married to. Like, I consider myself a very rich man to be married to my high school sweetheart, especially because unfortunately a lot of the high school sweethearts that we saw get married also didn't make it out. I'm sure you saw that too.
Yep.
You guys have gone through some hard things being a good team together. What are the principles? What are the communication tips that you guys do to help those young couples out there?
So this one is going to be probably kind of hard for a lot of people. It was very difficult for me. I always like to joke around and say that the best way to find success in life, it's about getting effed the right way. So the first F is faith. So everything is going to start with God. If you put God first before anything else, everything else in your life is going to flourish. But that has to be the first. So in descending order, your first F is faith. And for me, what that meant was when I was feeling ready to propose and know that I want this girl to be my wife and be with her forever, it took me having to humble myself enough to pray to God and just ask, look, I'm going to put this in your hands. You know better than I do, because I'm just a simple man here on earth who doesn't know nearly enough. And the infinite wisdom of God is going to know more than me. So I'm going to put faith in you and ask, is this the person I should marry? Let me receive an answer, yes or no, and I'll have enough faith to act on what you tell me to do. And doing that was incredibly difficult, because you have this girl that you love like more than anything, just about, except for God, because that's how it should be. You should put God first. But it's so hard to do when you're there with her. Like, you can hold her, you can see her, and you just know how much you love her. To have there be any possibility, no matter how slim, that you might be told, no, not this one, that requires an insane amount of faith. So that, if you can do that, if you can find a way to put God first, I promise He's going to bless everything else in your life. That includes your relationship with your spouse. And that's why the next F is family. So faith first, then family. So if you prioritize God, then your family. That's your spouse, that's your children, that's your friends, your extended family. So going down, you hit those two. Life is good just from that. The next thing you want to focus on is fitness. Your next F is fitness. And that doesn't just apply to your physical fitness, it's your mental fitness as well. You can't neglect your mental health or your spiritual health. So your fitness is paramount as well. And then below that, the last F that I like to think of is going to be finances. And it doesn't have to just mean your monetary finances. How are you rich with your skills, your knowledge? So if you have those things in place and in that order of importance, the last one I like to think of you're going to have is freedom. You nail all those, and the last one you're going to get is you're going to have freedom. Freedom to be happy, to live your life the way you want, to just improve upon yourself and just enjoy the blessings that you're going to receive in life.
So there's faith, family, fitness. What was the fourth one?
Finances.
Finances. Amen to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then freedom.
Yep.
That's the truth, man. Master yourself and your connection with God, then family, and then you got to figure out how you work your relationship with God and your relationship, because that's another one. It's one me and my wife have figured out. Thankfully, a lot of people didn't believe it because I'm not LDS. She is LDS.
Mm-hmm.
So we maneuvered that together, and we're stronger because we've figured that out together.
Right on, bro.
And those are all spot on. I mean, the truth speaks for itself, right?
Yeah.
Fact speaks for itself. The truth is, if you believe in God, statistically, not just thoughts, statistically, you will live a better life. Doesn't mean you have to believe in a specific religion or a specific type of God. If you just believe in a God, your life will be better. 2, if you get married, your life will be better statistically.
Absolutely.
If you have kids, your life will be better statistically. If you have finances and don't have to stress all the time, your life will be better statistically.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to freedom.
Yep. So they say finances it's not the way to happiness. And it may not be, but finances affect everything you do. And it can affect your happiness. But you have to have those other things in place first to find true happiness.
I'm such a found believer that finances does allow for happiness to take place. And I'll tell you why. If I have a steady income job where I'm making a lot of money, if I don't have to clean my toilets, I am happy.
Yep.
If I get to go on vacation for a week and not have to budget every single penny I spend, I'm a happy man. Are you telling me that I get to go on a vacation, I get to pay for my wife to get a massage? Like, that makes me happy.
Yep.
Finances alone, having $100 in my pocket may not allow me to be happy. But that $100 that I spend it on will make me happy.
Mm-hmm. It's having that freedom from that stressor in your life, because it is a stressor. If you're constantly worried about where your next meal is going to come from, if you've got enough to get clothing to put on your children's backs, if you've got enough gas to put in your car, if you've got a car, if you're going to be able to afford the mortgage, all of those things in life that you might be stressing about usually come back to money. So if you can find a way to get that stressor at least lessened in your life, absolutely, it leads to more happiness.
Absolutely. So bringing it back to Storm Warrior Tactical, you've built that. I assume you live your personal life by these standards too. I know just by knowing you, and I'm sure your wife does, and I'm sure you instill those beliefs and thoughts and standards into your kids as well. How did you learn those? I know you've learned some from your mom and dad. Was there anything else that you compiled to say, these are the most important things to live your life by, and we're going to build a brand around that?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. A lot of it comes from the career, seeing the things that you're going to see in it, understanding that there's an order of importance in everything that you're going to do, and understanding, one, that life is short. Like, yes, we're going to have a life after this life, like we've talked about, but this life in the grand scheme of things is just kind of a short chapter of that life. So, one, you need to not take for granted everything that you've already got. And being grateful for the blessings that you do have, that's going to be huge. Knowing that you are capable and able to go out and affect change in your life too, that's such an amazing feeling. Like, you don't have to feel stuck. And it's fairly simple Like there's just kind of two things. And part of our logo and part of the brand that we built into Storm Warrior has to do with these two things, and it's resilience and discipline. So if you can build your resilience and stay on your discipline, just little steps every single day is going to lead you to a life that you're going to enjoy more.
Love that. So resilience and discipline.
Absolutely.
Tell us the difference between the two.
So resilience is going to be what you need to weather those storms. It's not going to be easy. It's just going to suck no matter what sometimes. There's not going to be anything that you can do about it. Sometimes it's just going to suck. But if you have enough resilience to know, okay, I'm here, it sucks, I'm going to get through it. That's how you build resilience. It's mostly in the mind. David Goggins is a master of this. And if you understand that, no, it's okay. This sucks, but I can do it. I can deal with it. I'm going to get through it. Every time you weather another storm, your resilience is going to grow. As long as you can tell yourself, I'll get through this. It will end. Nothing lasts forever. That's how you build your resilience.
I love that. And to that, as you mentioned, it gets easier and easier. I look at it as like a big loop. Like your first storm you weather, it's probably going to be big. Like the first time your junior high school boyfriend or girlfriend breaks up with you, it's probably going to be a detriment. And then it gets easier and easier as you go through all of your girlfriends and boyfriends. I know that's such a silly example, but it's the truth. You could relate that to any problem. My parents were divorced. My wife's parents were divorced. What's communication with another significant other? How do you do that? Right?
Yeah.
The first argument was it wasn't like gnarly. Obviously, we weren't hitting each other and throwing things at each other. And anybody listening to this, if you're going through that right now, just leave or go to therapy. You need help. But now it's like, hey, now it's just a disagreement, right? It's less chaos because we've figured out our way. And again, you can relate that to any problem. It's like a boulder to a rock. Some things may feel like a boulder, and that boulder you're carrying right now at some point will be easier in the future.
Yes, I love that. It's very true too. Like you said, any problems, the first time you face a problem of that kind, it's always more difficult the first time because you're kind of figuring it out. You've never done it before. Of course, it's not going to be easy. Just like I like to say that you're never going to become the graceful master unless you're willing to look like the foolish beginner. So you have to be willing to, kind of figure it out at first. That's okay.
Yeah, you got to give yourself permission to suck or you'll never rock in anything.
Absolutely.
And to own it too. I mean, we're bringing it back to awareness and the buffalo and to your principles of Storm Warrior Tactical. You got to become aware. Like, what is it you want in life? What is it you don't want in life? Oh, you don't want this? Figure out how to let it go. You do want this? Figure out how to create it. And this is why life excites me so much, because it's easy to win. You just can't give up. It really is just that. The concept of never giving up is all you need.
Yep. And that's where your discipline is going to kick in and be paramount. That's why part of the other thing that actually in the spear, one of the spears is resilience. The other spear is discipline, because that's what it is. If you have that discipline to exercise the willpower to do what needs to be done every day, that little step, just step by step, it's going to lead you to success. If you're strong enough to just exercise the discipline every day. It's not easy. I mean, it's simple in concept, but it's difficult to execute. But if you can do it, you're going to be so far ahead of everyone else.
And the bird, I know that it's a specific bird and it's leaving my mind. I apologize. What is it?
Phoenix.
The phoenix. I knew that, I promise.
Totally.
Phoenix. Why did you choose the phoenix?
Phoenix is for a couple of reasons. One, if you're going to make it through the storm, when you rise up, that's what the phoenix does. The phoenix rises from the ashes and it becomes more than it was. The other reason is in a lot of cultures and a lot of religions across the world, a lot of people look at the phoenix as a symbol for Christ. So he's the ultimate conqueror of death. What better example do we have in this life than Christ of overcoming obstacles, of weathering the difficult storms, becoming more? I don't think there is a better example. So it was really important to us to choose the phoenix for that reason as well. Absolutely.
I don't think I know. Nobody in this world other than Jesus Christ is risen from the death.
The real phoenix in true form, right?
Absolutely. So when was a time that you had to rise I know you obviously went through infertility. Did I say that right?
Yep.
With you and your wife. What's another time that you had to rise from the ashes yourself?
There's a few incidences that I can remember specifically, but in law enforcement, you're going to see things that nobody else wants to see, right? What we're doing is showing up on people's worst day of their lives, usually. Sometimes it's the last day of their life, unfortunately. I've had a couple like that myself, and that's why I've really taken to heart that, you got to get on things now. This life doesn't last forever, so really appreciate what you have and get going on your dreams because you're not going to have forever. So, because I've seen a lot of people where their lives have ended that day. Like I've shown up and they have passed on. Those things are going to stick with you. When you see somebody there in front of you, and especially if they're younger, just how much potential is ahead of them in life. I've had one incident that just I remember vividly. I can still see the guy's face like I'm looking at him. It was a motorcycle accident in the intersection where someone turned in front of him. He had no riding gear. He had no helmet. It was a bad scene, but he was still alive when I showed up. He had probably all 4 of his limbs broken, facing directions they shouldn't be facing. He's still alive, barely breathing, and we got to him pretty quick. We're starting CPR on this man. Bystanders were around, and one of them actually came to help me, thankfully, because it's a lot easier to do CPR when you're both tag teaming it. But we were working on this man, and I just vividly remember seeing the light in his eyes go. Like the last breath, like you can kind of hear like a death rattle in someone's chest, when they're about to go. It's a very distinct sound. It's not a pleasant sound, but it's almost like you could watch the life leave his eyes. It's a very distinct moment that sticks with me. So those kind of things that you go to, that you deal with, when you have family members who are there, who have lost a loved one, and now you are having to tell them their loved one is gone. Those kind of things are incredibly difficult for the family, but you having to be the one to deliver that news or show up on the scene, those things are really difficult. And having to overcome them, especially in the moment where everyone is looking at you to be the voice of calm in their particular storm that they're going through, that's always a challenge. So learning to kind of do that helps you, again, build your resilience and helps you kind of get through your own storms as you learn to navigate that and try to help others do the same.
How do you stay calm in the midst of a storm, of something of that, like that story? And I'm sure you have hundreds of stories similar to that, unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately, that's the key. Is it's funny to think about, but every police officer, we want our shift to be quiet. It'd be great if we had no calls, because if we're getting called, it's usually because something bad has happened. The way that you kind of build that resilience, a lot of it comes from the training. It's just basic stress inoculation. Military will do the same thing. They'll put you into such a state of stress and then show you, okay, now function. You can do it. You have the resilience to keep going. Here's the first step. The first thing you can do, breathe. Just start with breathing, because a lot of times people forget that. Just start with breathing. Okay, now take a step. Okay, look around. Take the assessment. Okay, what needs to happen first? Is there any threats that need to be stopped? Okay, there's no threats. Okay, what do we do to make sure there's no further loss of life? Well, we have to protect the scene. We've got to shut down traffic. We've got to apprehend the suspect. Whatever it is, you look at those steps and then you go to work. It's kind of like you have to almost shut off the emotion in that moment. You can't let it overcome you. You have to learn to be stronger than it. It's obviously something that you're going to have to deal with later. It doesn't just go away, period, but you just kind of shut it off while you deal with it because other people are depending on you.
And what I heard in that, psychologically, if you allow yourself to feel an emotion, it takes about 20 seconds to feel an emotion and let it pass. Obviously, in the midst of a situation, that emotion is going to keep happening. That's where you obviously say you're going to have to deal with it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So what I heard from you is stop, slow down, breathe. Determine if there's anything actual threatening your life or somebody else's. 3, make sure that nothing else bad happens, and make sure everybody, and yourself included, are safe. And then 4, after you've wrapped up the situation, then you can go feel your emotion, essentially.
Pretty much. That's how you have to do it. The adrenaline dump is one way to think about it. And it happens to a lot of people. Any big like crisis situation, you're up on the adrenaline and you can function and do everything you need to during, but it's oftentimes not until a little bit after, maybe a couple hours, maybe it's the next day. The adrenaline dump is a real thing. Everybody's going to feel it at some point after. So that's why sometimes the day after you can have like an incredible stomach ache because you were just so up on adrenaline the day before. When that dump hits, that's when you're going to be dealing with it.
Of course. So my question to you is, like, a lot of people don't have real stresses anymore. Like, we're not getting chases by lions, tigers, and bears anymore. Now we're scared of almost nothing sometimes.
Yeah.
So, and you may not be able to speak to this, maybe you can, but I'm intrigued. To the person out there that's struggling with anxiety, which is essentially anxiety is a good thing, but sometimes it's I'm being scared of nothing. What do you say to that person and how they could overcome their anxiety?
I think for those people, because I've felt and dealt with the same things, maybe on greater scale, but I've also dealt with them on smaller scales. The anxiety that you're feeling is real. The depression that you're feeling is real. These emotions are real. Whether it's something small or seemingly insignificant to someone else, to you in that moment, it's real. So these people are feeling these emotions as if it were something that should be putting you into fight or flight. It's going to feel as the same emotion as if it was something big and serious. So it's okay to feel that way. It's still the same principles of building that resilience. You can get through it. You know that you can get through it. You have to know that you can get through it. You can weather that storm and tell yourself it's not going to last forever. You will make it through this. Just, it's okay to feel those emotions. That's one thing I would tell them first and foremost. It's okay. It does happen. You can be anxious about public speaking, about driving on the highway, about going someplace new that you've never gone before. Like those things are real and they do cause people anxiety. I get that. So just go ahead and feel the emotion. It's okay. You'll be able to get through it. Know that you've got the resilience to deal with it. That's one thing I wanted to show people and love about Storm Warrior is that you don't have to be a warrior to overcome these storms and get through them and become better. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean like being a warrior. You're not law enforcement, you're not military. Yes, these type of people, I think you could definitely say they are warriors, but they're not the only warriors. Our doctors, our nurses, the spouse that's out there dealing with domestic violence that's being abused, the overworked parent who still shows up for their kid, the people that are out there working our grocery stores and checking you out. Like, you don't know anyone's story, but all of these people are definitely warriors. They absolutely are people that have the warrior spirit. It doesn't just mean that you're military, law enforcement, and those things. Everybody's got it in them. That's one thing I wanted to show people with Storm Warrior. And part of helping you realize that you are a warrior, that you've got it in you to become one, is teaching you need to build your resilience. Know you're strong enough to get through the storms, that you can weather them and come out stronger on the other side.
That's beautiful. So essentially what I'm hearing, it is real. Mm-hmm. Just like you. Sure, I've felt these emotions, maybe on a greater scale than other people and maybe on a smaller scale. Either way, it's real.
Oh, yeah.
But the point of bringing back the concept of the boulder is as you continuously overcome that anxiety, overcome that depression, the next time it takes place, it's easier and easier to overcome. So the one question that comes back to mind, you mentioned at that motorcycle accident that you saw his light leave his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever see somebody's light leave their eyes before they're actual quote unquote dead? And if that's confusing, I can reword that.
Oh, no. Not me personally, in the sense that like their life is ending. I feel unless you're getting out, you see some people just kind of lose the drive or the motivation to really like pursue life. I feel like you can kind of see that in some people who are just really down in the depths of depression. Because I know my wife and I have both fought with depression where you just don't see the same light in someone's eyes, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Not like their life's going to end, but it's that spark kind of goes away a little bit while you're trying to get through that. So I don't know if you've kind of experienced anything like that yourself.
I would say so. But then again, I've never experienced anything at your extent. So it's like, I know what I've experienced and I can tell when somebody's living versus not living, but I've also never seen anyone. I've seen my grandma pass away, but never seen anybody catastrophically pass away. So her eyes were already shut, essentially, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to see. It's not something I would wish to ever see again, but seeing just the difference, the change in them, to hear the breath, like the death rattle, and to watch their eyes, like when you know their life has ended, it's like you could see it in that second. You knew the exact second they were gone, because the paramedics showed up after, and they fought like lions and kept doing CPR and tried to bring him back, because there are times that can happen too. But in that instant, we continued doing CPR, but you could see it. It just gone. Like his spirit left his body, essentially, is what it looked like. You could see it in the eyes.
Absolutely. Now, bringing it back to communication and conversations, I'm assuming being a cop has helped you learn how to have conversations with your wife a lot better and your kids.
Try to, yes. you pick up a couple people skills along the way.
I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of nice people and a lot of rude people.
Yes.
So to bring it on a positive note, I'm sure there's, just like you remember the really bad moments, I'm sure you remember the really good moments. What would you say is the day that you felt most fulfilled being a cop? And what was that impact like?
One of the ones I remember the most is, there's two that kind of stand out to me, but one of the ones I really remember was a guy flying down the highway into like well into triple digits, right? And obviously you see something like that, kind of catches your eye and you're like, what is this person doing? So you go and you get him stopped, you get him pulled over. Well, it turns out this particular guy, he was DUI. So he was drunk, like bad drunk. Like ended up arresting him and taking him in for that. But the really sad part about it was there was two little kids in the back seat, like little. And having to take him to jail was such a good thing because it helped those kids so much when they had family show up to come and get these kids, because we don't want them to, have to go deal with DCFS and anything like that. We'd much rather see family with them. And the family that showed up like adored these kids and were incredibly grateful for what we had done that day. To take the father to jail. Unfortunately, it was the father, but take the father to jail so we could get these kids to a better place. And the family was not naive. They knew that had we not stopped him, he probably would have killed all three of them that day. So you could just see and feel the gratitude in their eyes. And to me, that one always stuck out.
Wow. I mean, so much love goes, but then so much almost anger comes into my body because I'm like, how would you do that to your kids?
Yeah, that's one that's going to be difficult to manage sometimes because we feel it too. Like, why would you do that to these children? But knowing that we actually did something that day that actually helped them, that was a good feeling.
That is a good feeling. That's amazing. And it's those kids have life to thank to you.
Possibly. We never know for sure, but
you don't. But at the same time, if you're drunk going on that high level, even beyond those kids, that driver could have hurt somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll use it as a story. The reason I give you the credit, and I'm going to butcher this story, by the way, but there was a flood and a guy was stranded, and a boat comes and it's like, hey, come on, get on. The guy says, no, God will save me. God will save me. And then helicopter comes. Hey, come on, get on. No. God will save me. God will save me. And then the guy passes away. He's like, what's up, God? Why didn't you come save me? He said, I sent you two separate things to come and save you.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I look at that is you're almost that person coming to save lives. And some people will have the option to either have your help or not have your help. And I'm sure you've experienced plenty of times where people refuse your help even though they need it. But ultimately, you're giving people that decision. And so in my opinion, you kind of are that angel on earth. You're giving people the option of life or death multiple times. And sometimes you're the angel stepping in a physical form of saying no more. Like, these kids deserve life.
That's a very interesting way to think about it. I like that story too, because it's true. Sometimes you're not aware enough to like, okay, listen to the prompting. This is your way out. This is your sign. This is the olive branch, whatever it may be. Listen to the prompting instead of thinking you're just going to automatically, like, I don't know, be picked up and rescued. Sometimes you have to take the hand that's extended.
Exactly. And do people like getting pulled over? Absolutely not. But here's the interesting thing that came just to mind too, is what if you knew that the reason you got pulled over, you didn't get hit from somebody running a red light, the next light?
Yeah, you'd never know. I like that you bring that up. It's difficult for us to ever think of ourselves in that way because we really don't want the credit. We're not looking for any credit or a pat on the back. We're just really trying to go out there and help people where we can. And unfortunately, a lot of times to a lot of people, that looks like us hurting them, not helping them. And we don't want to have to go out with the intention to like ever harm anyone. It's always from a place of, okay, we want to help this person first, or if there's a threat, we have to stop the threat to preserve life, and that includes the bad guy. Like, we don't want the bad guy to perish and pass away from the result of their own actions. We want to try and preserve and protect their life as well. And sometimes that I know that sounds kind of odd, but
Sure.
We really are just out there trying to help everyone, to include the bad guy.
Absolutely. So with your emotions of seeing hardship, how have you learned to handle those emotions? Or what do you do to handle them? Because you're still a cop, meaning you're still experiencing tragedy, unfortunately.
Yeah, you have to kind of compartmentalize things, and having a time to deal with them is important. A lot of people will push them aside, the emotions, the bad ones that can eat at you, and not deal with them at any point until they manifest themselves in such a way that you have to deal with them. So, yes, you can compartmentalize them, but know that you're going to have to deal with them and not put it off. And definitely don't put it off for long. Deal with that emotion because it's going to need to be dealt with. And you need outlets. You need hobbies. You need things that are going to help connect you to the people that you love, that are going to connect you to God, that are going to help you work on those F's. And one of them for me is faith and family. Like, being connected with God to me is so important. Prayer, scripture reading, whatever it is that you're going to do, those things make a difference. At least they do for me, and I absolutely love it. Family is the next thing that is so big for me. I adore my family. My wife is amazing, and my children are just fantastic. Spending time with them just it grounds me, helps me deal with the emotions and things that I will see, and helps me process some things because I get to see something that I appreciate, that I love. It kind of counteracts that. I see my kids and family in a different light with a new appreciation when I have to deal with a family that is broken, seeing someone who's dealing with domestic violence, or the kids are abused, or any of those things. It makes me go home and appreciate and love my family even more. So I do that. And then fitness, I love the gym. Like, it's just such therapy for me. I never thought I'd be one of the people that would go to the gym that like had to go for my mental health, but it's so become that, and I love it. So it's a great outlet no matter what. And it's already been shown that going to the gym is going to provide you more of an antidepressant than almost any medication can. So the gym is so important.
Your gym that you post all the time, is that at your house?
It is.
Dude, that's a solid gym. I'm kind of jealous. You got to check out my in-house garage non-gym.
Definitely. I'd love to. I love all things fitness. So I'm glad you have one too. Is that one of the things that you do to help?
It's a joke. It's really just a bench, some free weights, and it's nothing crazy. But to that point, fitness can be done anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I was 195 pounds to begin with, and I've lost 25 pounds.
Nice. Good on you, bro.
So, and I've not set a foot in an actual gym.
Perfect. And I love that. And I love that you understand that, because you don't need a single piece of equipment, and you don't need like a full gym or full room. You just need a space big enough that basically you can stand up in or lie down in. Like, that's enough.
People are like, I got to track my macros and I got to do this and I got to do that. No, you're making it too difficult, man. Like, the concept is this: you need to move your body and you need to eat right. And then if you do that, maybe you can get a little bit more technical as time goes on. But for now, just start doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So how long did it take for you to build that gym?
I mean, I've done a little bit over the years, but I'd say the big push to get everything in. It took me just a couple months.
That's fair.
It was at a time where we would kind of just gotten through IVF and just had our firstborn, and I was myself getting really overweight and dealing with all the stresses of everything we dealt with. I was not making great decisions with my health. So I had to make a major course correction. So that's what it was.
Eating too much donuts on the job.
Yep.
Just kidding.
You have to, man.
Is that like a real thing, or is that just honestly a joke?
As far as I can tell from everyone that I deal with, it's pretty much a joke. But there's a lot of us that are very conscious that we deal with enough stressors in our life that poor eating habits is not something we want to add to it. So.
I was going to say, I feel like cops usually, I'm like, they inspire me to work out because they usually have pretty good fitness and bodies. They can't afford a donut.
That's right.
Maybe a protein donut that they make at home, but not at the gas station. So there's two last main questions that come to mind. The first one is, you mentioned that you got to get effed the right way, and that starts with faith and family. Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, how do you bring faith and family into your work?
So for me, God is everywhere. So it's not that difficult. If your thoughts and your actions are geared towards doing what is morally, ethically right, something that God would look favorably upon, you can take that with you everywhere. You can also pray everywhere. There's nothing that says you can't just take 5 minutes on a break here and there and read some scripture, to find some inspiring quotes and things like that. That's one thing I try to do with the things I post. I only post because I started it, I wanted to be a consistent example and influence to a particular person in my life, to show them, here is the discipline occurring on 3 days a week is what I try to do. So 3 days a week, here it is. Here's a little bit of motivation for you while you lock in the discipline. And with that, a lot of the quotes are geared towards bettering yourself, or they have to do with God and religion, getting yourself closer to God. So there's so many different influences out there that are related to faith, and I love that we're seeing kind of a comeback. I don't know if you've seen that in a way, but I feel like the world kind of shifted to such a dark place for so long that so many people started to wake up and realize we really need God. So a lot of people started coming back to that. So now there's a lot more faith-based accounts that are out there across the socials that are putting out such a good message. I love that. And I'm trying to kind of aspire to be that as well, and post that a little bit more frequently about how we can be better connected to God. Here's just a little quote or a little inspiration for you to kind of live by, at least for today.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is you pray on breaks. Do you ever pray before you go on calls, after you finish calls? Oh,
yeah, absolutely. There's calls that you can hear, you just kind of know after a while, okay, this one's not going to go well. So it's just a quick, watch over me, protect me, look after me while I deal with this. Help guide me and know what I'm going to need to do. Just a quick couple seconds, and then let's go to work.
I love it. And then God does what he needs to do to help you out throughout that call, right? Mm-hmm. Do you often have quiet days, or does that not happen very often?
No, I do have quite a few quiet days, thankfully. It's not all bad out there. Sometimes it can feel like it when that's what you deal with a lot of the time. But there are the quiet days where we get to help lots of people with some of the public relations stuff. You go out there and do a little bit of service.
Absolutely. What's your favorite service thing you've done as a cop?
Anytime parents have their kids with them, the kids are so funny, and it's just amazing to deal with the kids. One of my favorite things to do, I don't know if it's a good thing, but it's kind of funny when you stop somebody for speeding or whatnot. And a lot of times, it's not too egregious, so I just intend on giving them the warning, the reminder, the education. But if I go up there and see they've got kids with them, it's fun to talk with the kids about what they think about law enforcement. And give the kids the option, just kind of as a joke. Like, I already know I'm pretty much going to give them the warning, but hey, mommy was going a little fast today. Do you think she should get a ticket or a warning? And almost every time the kid says a ticket. And you can see the mom just turn around with the mom look. Like, quiet, don't say that.
I almost want to see that happen in real life. I can only imagine. That's too funny. My wife over here, I won't say the story as good as she does, but she got a ticket when I want to say she was 16 and we were dating. She was driving, cop pulled her over. She was with her brother, and her brother said something in the nature like, yeah, I see this all the time. And she's like, not with me, with my parents.
Said this happens all the time.
Really trying to throw you under the bus.
So that's too funny. Well, it's been such an honor having you on, man. I could talk to you for hours.
Well, this has been great. I really appreciate it. And getting your insights too has been fantastic.
I appreciate that. So last couple of questions is, if there was one piece of advice that you could offer the entire audience today, what would it be?
Focus on God first. If you can, and whatever religion you are, and maybe you don't believe, but just try it. For me, there was something so incredibly powerful that even though I had grown up with religion in my life, reading through the scriptures, if you can humble yourself enough to do what it says, and it says, once you get through them, if you want to know if this is true or not, get down on your knees and ask in earnest, and be prepared to receive an answer one way or the other. If it's no, fine. If it's yes, be willing to accept that. So if you can put God first and just humble yourself enough and open your heart enough to receive that answer one way or the other, and know that your heart's open and willing, and then act on that once you get that answer, it's going to change your life. I'm not telling you to just go out and blindly believe. Like, do your research, do your homework, read about it, pray about it, find out for yourself, because everybody's experience is theirs, their own, personally. It's going to be different than everyone else. But if you can find a way to put God first in your life, everything else just falls into place. And like we've talked about today, the level of happiness that you're going to have by putting God first in your life is going to just make it so much better. You're going to be so much happier if you can find a way to do that.
Absolutely. And what is your definition of an authentic life?
So living something that is going to just not just provide you joy, but purpose. I know some people struggle trying to find their purpose. I have at times too. But I feel like once you're connected with God, God is going to help you find that purpose. Like you said, he gives us those gifts, those talents that you can just magnify those. But as long as you're connecting with him and putting him first, oftentimes, and it can be frustrating, people will say that God will give you the vision, but he's not going to show you the path or the means to it. So sometimes you're going to get that vision. You're going to see that purpose, and it'll give you something to strive towards. You might try a couple different paths along the way while you try to find it, but having that vision is something God can help put in your heart and put in your mind to give you something to chase that's also going to give you happiness.
Absolutely. You may be able to correct me, but there's a saying in the Bible that says the people with the vision will not perish. It's just the truth.
Love that.
Even just your next step, as long as you can just keep seeing that next step, you're going to keep moving forward.
Yep.
It's the moments that you stop taking steps forward that you start to get stuck and the feelings of feeling yucky.
Yes.
To say the least.
And it doesn't take much progress. It doesn't take much of a step. Even if it's just a tiny little bit every day, you just make a little bit of progress. It makes all the difference.
Absolutely. Just never quit.
Yep, never quit.
So ultimately, how can I and the audience support you?
Oh, the best thing for us right now is just to share our message. Check out our socials. stormwarriortactical.com is where you can get all of our merch. We have further down on the website, it's going to tell you our mission statement. It's going to have an ethos. It's going to have a motto. You can get in touch with me on my socials, or the socials just at Storm Warrior Tactical, same name. Or you want to find me at Alic Giles, you can find me there. Instagram is where I'm most active and try to give people some of that motivation, to show them how to get that discipline, to just give them some quotes and inspiration to pick them up every day.
I love that. And we'll link all of your social media below as well. And I will say, These are the most comfiest hoodies ever. Feels like you're getting a hug 24/7.
Dude, I love hearing that. I'm so glad.
So seriously, go get yourself some swag. Thanks so much for coming on, Alic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again so much for listening to the Journey to Authenticity podcast. If you liked what you heard from both myself and Alic today, go ahead and subscribe and leave a review. This helps me to get the most interesting and qualified guests to move you to your most authentic life. Also, while I have you here, I want to bring your awareness to the links below for Storm Warrior Tactical. These are the most comfy quality clothing, and it has an amazing message. With that in mind, go grab yourself some merch.